Hi, everybody. Welcome to another of our Evolving HR live sessions. Today, I am joined by two rather smashing ladies who I will let introduce themselves in a second. But we'd love to hear where you're joining us from today. So please do get active in the chat throughout this conversation. We would love it to be as interactive as possible. We'll try and answer as many questions that you have as we can do. But yeah, just start us off by letting us know in the chat where you are. And Sian, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes. Hi, I'm Sian Fisher. I've got a 25-year career in HR, the last 6 or 7 of those working independently as a consultant. And I also run a second business which is focused around confidence, particularly for women, particularly in that midlife phase as well.
Wonderful. And Sasi, we've spoken so many times before. We've done a few sessions on this topic before as well. But do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Oh, never enough conversations, to be honest, Kirsty. So I'm always up for conversation on confidence. So I'm Sasi Venables, and I run the HR Confidence Club on here. And I keep forgetting to actually tell people that I also work in-house full-time at the University of Worcester as well as a business partner, and somebody reminded me of that last week, so I thought, I best mention them.
I forget that sometimes, that you do all of your HR Confidence Club stuff on top of a full-time HR job.
Yes, and that's why I had to do that lovely post for my husband yesterday on our wedding anniversary, because without him I wouldn't be able to do it all.
It's a lot, but it's funny. It's when something takes you like that, when you're really passionate about something. And I know where it kind of came from with you, and we'll get into that in a bit, but you just kind of make the time for it, don't you? You're like, I'm gonna find a way of doing this. And Sian, you combine something really interesting. Are you still doing that, the style piece as well?
I am, yes.
Combine that with the confidence work that you do. It's around like just styling people and helping them dress for confidence?
It's very much recognizing that as we move through life, our confidence is very much connected to how we reflect who we are and how you reflect that externally, and so it's not actually about fashion or trends or anything like that, but it's actually helping reconnect who you are on the inside, how you reflect that on the outside, so that you can show up as you, which really is when, confidence shines through.
I love that. Totally agree. And I've always said this for years, me trying to dress like I fitted into a corporate environment. There was always something that felt a little off to me. And so since I've gone back in the last few years to dressing how I did when I was 18, I feel like me again. And it makes an enormous difference to my confidence. Like, I can stand up and speak in front of a room full of people if I've got my Dr. Martens on and if I'm dressed like me. But anytime that I'm trying to wear like somebody else's uniform, it has a big impact on the whole day, how you come across, doesn't it?
It's huge. But I think so many of us fall into that trap, especially I think we're all around the same age, and I think probably when we entered the workforce there were those very different expectations, and there was a professional way of dressing, and that was the expectation. And for me it never felt right. I always felt like I was in a box, but it was expectation. And I think as things evolve, as life happens, really being able to step back in to what is actually right for you is hugely empowering. And I've seen your photos, Kirsty, the corporate days compared to now, and it's a huge difference, but you can see the difference in the confidence in those photos as well.
Absolutely can.
And those boots that you wore at Michelle's event, Kirsty, not your DMs, they are beautiful.
Knee-high platform chunky monsters, but I was so comfortable all day. I say that I had a massive blister because they were new. I was comfortable in my head all day with how I was dressed, but they were actually rubbing my feet. But that's something different. So let's get into how confidence has impacted us each individually. So tell me, Sasi, I'll start with you. When have you felt your confidence take a hit during your HR career?
Oh gosh, I think it's taken a hit at various times, and I didn't really realise what it was. But the biggest time is the time I talk about in 2019, where it was eroding. And it's only by doing the work since that I realised that it was confidence. The doubt came first, that little doubt chipping away, and it just got bigger and bigger. And then it became confidence and actually my identity as well. And it was a slow erosion really over about 8 to 9 month period. And so I didn't really see it at the time. But when I think back to my first HR job, actually, I was bullied by my line manager. She was a bully, and my confidence took a dip then, not sort of thinking about it objectively and the situation. I just took it all that it was me and I'm the problem.
Yeah. I think I think it's very easy for us to do that, isn't it? To put the blame on ourselves or assume that it's something that we've done. And I think that because we do that, that's why it has such an impact on how we come across, because if you think you've done something wrong, then you start to doubt yourself. And so then you hold back from showing up again, and it just becomes this big vicious circle sort of thing. How about you, Sian? Have there been specific times where your confidence has taken a hit?
Yeah, I think so. I think some similar things to Sasi. I think there have been times when I've been heavily micromanaged as well, and that control issue isn't mine, somebody else's. But I think very often it's somebody else's issue can have that impact on you. And I think there have been times as well where, and I think probably a lot of people experience this working in HR, where you have the day job, you have your normal to-do list of things that have to get done, cases you're working on, whatever. And then a project comes along that gets added to the to-do list, when in reality, it's a project in its own right and should have dedicated project resource. And there've been a couple of times there where you're trying to do both things. You're trying to do the day job and trying to do the project. With really unrealistic expectations, and it's almost like you're set up to fail, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no way that you can do it all. And I think it's fair to say I have a history of perfectionism as well, so add that into the mix, and that can really take a hit. Confidence can really take a hit with that as well.
Yeah.
Perfect storm there, really, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It really is. I mean, I think the specific time for me was when I got let go from a job. And I think that's quite a common one. I think actually the examples that you've given as well are quite common in terms of times when you'll definitely feel a slump to your confidence, like being micromanaged, being bullied. I mean, goodness, being let go from a job. Anytime that you feel like your world's been shaken a little bit, or your perception of reality has been challenged by somebody else. And it's, for me, it was being let go from a job was the big one. But also it would be other people's unkind or aggressive behavior over the years would be time when where I would feel, how do I want to explain this? Sometimes there are times where you've just lost your confidence completely and it's in everything. And sometimes there are just certain situations where you don't feel confident. And those would always be, if there was a particularly difficult individual, I would then struggle anytime I was in front of that particular individual to try and, come across like I knew what I was talking about. And so that became like real confidence issue for me. I am going to mention that I wrote a book about confidence. I'm not going to mention it 8 million times, but I am going to mention it. One of the things that I've done...
you.
Sorry?
The one behind you.
The one behind me. Yes, here it is. Thank you. One of the things that I identified at the start of that book were 4 things that I call confidence killers. And they're not specific to HR, but they are what I think the 4, I think one of you just said perfect storm, and that's kind of what it is. So it was people pleasing, imposter syndrome, difficult people, and not enough resources, like overwork or not enough resources. I think we've covered all 4 of those with the examples that we've just given, which is really interesting. But I think anytime that you've got one of those 4 or more than one of those 4 present, it is an absolute recipe for, battering the old confidence. So let's talk about what confidence actually looks like, because you do get people thinking that, firstly, you get people who say, I'm just not a confident person, and that's that, which we know not to be true, because you can go from no confidence to high confidence. But sometimes I think people also get it muddled with arrogance or authority, or they think that you have to be like massively extroverted to be confident. And I don't think that's true either. So how would you kind of describe what confidence looks like in an HR role or in an office environment, and how it differs from those more negative things like arrogance? Sian, I'll ask you that one first.
Yeah, so I think that I think when we're talking about confidence in general, whether it's HR role or not, it starts with you. It starts with how you feel about yourself. It starts with the belief that you've got in yourself as well. In HR, I think that plays out as well in terms of boundaries. I'm sure that's probably come up in other conversations on different topics, but I think I think they are really, really important. And it, being confident, I think particularly for HR, is about feeling okay to enforce your boundaries. And also I think it's giving yourself a break. It's okay to get things wrong as well. I think we get a lot of knocks, but I think we also get put on this pedestal that says we're not allowed to make mistakes. And actually, yes, we are, because we're human, just like everybody else. And mistakes happen. And I think confidence comes from not allowing everybody else's noise to become your noise. I think that's where it, that's where you keep it from not crossing the line into kind of the arrogance, or is that you know who you are, you stay true to that, you find the way to do that in context, but that you can push back and say no, without adopting other people's take on things. I think that's where the line gets blurred. Is, are you doing, saying, being something for you, or based on somebody else's view, opinion, feedback? And I think where I've seen arrogance cropping up in the past, it's been around, I'm taking on somebody else's view of the world and not really thinking that through or challenging it.
I like that. That's a really nice way of putting it. Sasi, what would you add to that?
Wow, I think Sian covered so much there. Brilliant insights. And I think the biggest thing is our feelings, our internal feelings of self, and our knowledge, and our skills and our abilities. We've worked in HR often a long time. That's what I'm seeing anyway through the people I talk to. And we forget how much we know. So I think that confidence does come from what we know, our skills and our abilities. And like Sian said, not taking on other people's doubts, insecurities, projection, their arrogance or their politics, and being firm in that message. I think justifying or at least having a reason behind perhaps why we're saying what we're saying so we can back it up is helpful. But I don't think we should overdo that. And I see lots of us, when the confidence starts to dip, that we feel the need to over justify ourselves. So I think for ourselves, it's understanding why we're saying what we're saying, why we're giving the advice that we're giving. Do we believe what we're doing, and can we back it up? Maybe not with data. Sometimes you don't have data, maybe not with evidence. You don't always have that. But if you can say, well, I've been in this situation before and this is what worked for me, then that should be good enough. And I think knowing that people aren't always going to agree with you, and you have to accept that and not take it inwardly, is how I would talk about confidence.
Yeah, I love that. I do think, because there's that whole concept of quiet confidence as well, isn't there? That I think that was the biggest learning for me, is that I thought that I had to be the loudest and the most extrovert. And I think you see it when you go to meetings. There's always that one person that has to speak up for every blooming question, and that doesn't know when to shut up. And I do think when you see that happening, quite often those people think that that's what's expected of them. They think that that's them being confident, and it isn't. I think there's a big piece there, I think, around authenticity, isn't there, as well, which I think taps into what Sian was just saying, and actually what you were saying as well, Sasi. It's like you have to still be yourself. And I think you can, whatever that looks like, if you're quite quietly spoken, you can still be confident in your approach, but it has to be your approach. You have to be coming across like you. I think that's really, really important. So it's not about learning a style or learning to behave in a way that doesn't feel like you. It's just being comfortable in your own skin and in how you approach things, and comfortable in your knowledge as well. So I think it's a little bit more gentle than sometimes we think it is. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a big thing, I don't know if you two feel the same, but I would always bat away a compliment. I just love it. And
that might be a bit of a British thing as well, though. Like, I love your dress. Oh, this old thing, it only cost £5 from Primark. Just can't say thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I've had so many compliments about insights that I've given when you do take the leap to, speak up in that meeting and what have you. And I've started to really think about them and reflect on them and own them. And I think that's really valuable. Not bat it off and give it an excuse. Really think about that and then think, well, okay, how can I repeat that? Or, okay, I'm going to say something else next time if it warrants it. Try and give that value in your answers and not just speak for the sake of speaking like some people do in meetings.
Right, I'm going off at a tangent here. I know I did send you some questions beforehand, but was thinking about what you just said there. Why do we find it so difficult to believe that we know what we're talking about? To believe that we can have an impact on people? See, so I feel like I've overcome most of my confidence issues now. But what you just said, Sasi, about the compliment thing, somebody said to me in a message this morning, they were offering to help me out with some stuff for my conference in a few weeks. And she said in a WhatsApp, she said, you have no idea how much of an impact you've had on me in the last few months. If I can pay that back in some way, then I'd like to. And I read it and I felt almost shocked, because I was like, me? Have I? How? And it's like, but I don't know why. My first response was, oh, don't be so silly. Of course I haven't. But I didn't say that to her. I kind of thought, no, take a step back. And I was like, well, that's lovely of you to say so. If that's the case, I don't know how or what I did, but just thinking, I always find it so difficult to accept positive comments or people saying thank you or people saying, that had an impact on me. And it's still confidence, isn't it? It's still, I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I'm like, yeah, I really know my shit on this. And I don't think I ever will, but yeah, just Yeah. Do you think that? Do you feel that too? Do you sort of struggle sometimes when people are really positive?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think, I mean, it's one of the things that I work with my clients on from quite early on is you know, compliments are going to come and you deserve the compliments, you know, it's, you know, and let's change how you frame it and how you handle them. But I think as well that confidence is, like you said, you can have low confidence, you can have high confidence, you can grow it, you can, you know, you can build it. But I think I don't think you'll ever get to, you know, a point of absolute total confidence because, you know, life is life, isn't it? You know, and different things will knock, you know, will knock and have an impact. But I think it's, if you're moving up that scale, if you're moving towards that high confidence state, and if that's where you are for most of the time, then I think that's a really positive thing. But yeah, I think it comes back to what we were saying about self-belief and trust in yourself as well. And you know, some compliments are easier to take than others as well. And you're not the only one that goes, what, this old thing, £5 in the sale, you know.
Yeah.
See and hear it all the time. I guess as well, it's probably about how important that thing that you're receiving the compliment on is as well. You know, how important it is to you. And if it's something very important, and maybe you think you've still got work to do, or you know, there's some more growth that you can have in that area, then maybe it's a bit of a reflection of where you think you are as well.
I would say that's probably fair. So why do you think that HR professionals struggle so much with confidence? Particularly, I mean, even those that are in really senior roles, but it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's endemic. I really do. It's barely an HR professional that I speak to doesn't have any issue at all with confidence in their role. Sasi, I'll ask you that one first.
I think there's so many factors. I think that's the problem. Like naively, when I set up the club, I was like, I'm going to help loads of people. And then, my original intention hasn't quite been fulfilled because, there's so many factors. It could be that we're bringing things from our childhood back that we don't even realise through, you know, the limiting beliefs or imposter syndrome. It could be that it's the workplace, our line managers, that micromanagement is awful, and it just breeds a lack of trust in ourselves and our abilities to do something, because you know, sometimes you need to take a step back and think, is it them actually, and they're projecting something, their need for control or their own fear. But often we don't do that, and we just think they're micromanaging me because I'm rubbish at my job, and you know, wouldn't be able to do it properly if they didn't. It can sort of grow into that. So I think it's also the pressures and the constant change, the reactive nature of the work that we do. I don't think there's time sometimes to reflect and praise ourselves for something that we've done, and are we getting praise and recognition for the things that we're doing, or are we just on to the next thing because we're so busy? I had an appraisal a couple of weeks ago, and my manager said I downplay my achievements, and I think, well, it's just business as usual. If I'm dealing with tricky casework, it's a case. I mean, it's not really an achievement for me that I've managed 5 disciplinaries. Like, for me, achievements are positive things. Now, I might have handled it really well, but that personally isn't an achievement for me, if that makes sense. So I've rambled a little bit there because I haven't got the specific answer, because I think there's so many things that affect our confidence. I think the more senior we get, though, I don't know whether we've always got a network that we can call upon, and maybe mentors and things like that.
Sian, what are your thoughts around why it's such a big thing in HR?
Yeah, I think everything that Sasi said and everything that we've talked about so far, I think as well, we are also constantly doing battle with this reputation that we've got as well. If I I have to leave the room sometimes when something comes on the TV and there's HR involved, and it's like, okay, I just, can we stop? And I know we're not the only profession that gets knocked, or but it is quite prolific, isn't it? And so I think that kind of external perception for people that, even from people that have never potentially had any dealings with HR, maybe they don't work in an organization with a HR function, maybe they're like self-employed or really small businesses, and you think, but that reputation is there. So we're contending with all the stuff going on within the organization itself, and politics and everything going on there. Then we've got this kind of reputation both within the organization and externally as well. I think there is that thing about, our impact is huge, but it can be perceived as less tangible than some other areas of the business as well. I was in a room last week where I got referred to as the dark side, and they got firmly put in their place.
Nice.
But I was like, no, not acceptable. But when you've got that, you've got all that going on, that's undoubtedly gonna have an impact. And I think the more senior you get, kind of where you are like the flagship for the function in your business, that it's like, I guess you could liken it to politics, isn't it? It's, you've got somebody who's like the one at the top that's leading it all, and there are lots of people working there. But I guess the more senior you get, the more kind of the more you front it as well, I guess.
It's funny, isn't it? There's we joke about all the stupid names that people call HR, and I've certainly had some vitriolic comments on various LinkedIn posts, not necessarily about me, but about the function as a whole, the profession as a whole. That seems to be very common, but I think in a smaller sort of scale within your organization, you'll encounter multiple different perceptions of HR, probably just from your leadership team. There will be the ones that get it and absolutely see how we can, bring value, help them drive the business forward, all of those sorts of things. But then you've got the people who think that we're still the welfare department and are there to organize a Christmas party and make sure everyone's happy. And when you're in meetings, if you're in the senior leadership team and you're in meetings and you've got that mix of perceptions, I mean, I don't know about you, but the number of times that people would literally just go, why is she here? In a meeting where I really clearly should be there, but people don't even know why you're in the room.
I've had that internally as well.
After a while, you'll start to, why am I in the room? Should I not be here? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think, I've sadly seen it within HR itself. So going back a little while, but I worked in an organisation where we had specific departments within the business. Each department had its own HR function, and then there was like a central HR function. And internally, those departmental HR functions referred to the central function as human remains.
Lindsay's just put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, human remains. Yeah. And the thing is, everybody who says that thinks they're really funny and original, and it's like, do you know how many times we've heard that now? Seriously. I mean, my boss, I've mentioned this before. I used to work with a guy whose name was Bryn, and they used to call him the Bryn Reaper. And then all they could come up with me was mini Bryn Reaper. And I'm like, that doesn't work. Really doesn't work. Is that the best you can do, kind of thing? But yeah, I mean, it is is difficult. It's, you know, we joke about it, but actually when you're hearing that kind of thing day in and day out, it does grind you down. And I think you've got that additional thing. I think, Sasi, you referenced, like, when you're the most senior person responsible for HR in your organization, it's like, who are you supposed to then talk to? Who do you, you know, that's why the network piece, like having a network or a community that you can be part of other HR professionals who get it. That's when that really comes into its own. If you haven't got anybody in your own organization that you can kind of just, sometimes you just want to check yourself. Like, I'm pretty sure that I'm thinking about this the right way, but everyone on my leadership team is making me feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. So can I run it by someone else? What do you wish somebody had told you earlier about building your confidence? Sian, I'll start with you.
Anything, I think, really, because I don't think, I don't think when I was starting out for a very long time that confidence even came into it in HR. It was all about technical knowledge and skill and building the experience, and, you know, and if you wanted to progress your career, it was about knowledge and time served and all of this stuff. And there was never any conversation about confidence, or, you know, it was almost like it wasn't on the curriculum to work in HR. Mind you, I think, you know, we're going back a while, so I think we were, when I started, we were perceived as tissues and Tampax. That was the phrase that always stuck in my mind. Yeah. So, you know, there was obviously a lot to do to kind of break out from that. But yeah, confidence was not, it was just you learn this next piece, and then then you learn the next piece, and then you put that into practice. And yes, I think for people starting out in the profession now, you know, I don't know if it is, but I would really love something around that kind of self-belief, confidence to be kind of on the curriculums or part of the development programs that people are working through, because I think it's so fundamental to not only your career, your HR career, but also how you look after yourself, how you prevent yourself getting to burnout as well, because that's, you know, I know that's a whole other topic, but quite a common occurrence now, unfortunately.
Yeah, frighteningly so. But it's there are a lot of skills in how we come across and how we do the work that we don't get any guidance on or training for. We get lots and lots of training on the work, but not how to do it, or how. So I think, like, the only difficult conversations training I've ever had was designed for managers trying to give employees feedback or manage poor performance. It wasn't for us. You know, like, how do you roll out the fact that we're changing our pension scheme from defined benefit to defined contribution and not get people throwing things at you?
Yeah.
You know, those sorts of things, like when you've got to deliver bad news. There was nothing for that. Like, even like how do you handle the myriad of different reactions you might get when you let someone go from a job?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely. It is that application piece, and, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're all trying to follow the same ACAS code of conduct or whatever it is. People do react differently. That's the problem. So it is that bit that around confidence that you need to be able to navigate and be flexible and agile, and just try to do the right thing in the moment. And I think that's one thing. Well, there's a few things. I think if somebody said to me, it's like, know why you're doing something, even if it doesn't follow the standard. It's what's your own justification for it. So at least you can have a reason if something's got a little bit wrong, like your intention behind the how you've navigated that policy or what have you. And I think as well, staying connected to your values and not letting those erode. You know, all the conforming that we probably have to do as we start out in our career. Is that silently chipping away actually at your values, and is that what's causing your confidence to erode? And Emma in the chat,
I just was going to come on to that, but you go for it. It's like, bless her.
God, yeah, second career, well, fair play, but you might want to rethink that.
I love working in HR. I really do.
I do. I laugh about it. I've been in, like Sian, 25 years, and I don't think I would want to do anything else as much as I do have a little moan about it. But yeah, giving advice, it is difficult. But I think what we have to remember is, again, what's the intention behind our advice? What's the reason why we're giving it? Is it reasonable? Is it fair? I think sometimes the trap we fall into is we have to fix and solve the problem. And actually we don't. There's the expectation that we do, but often we don't allow the managers to think through, like, how would you want to solve it? Okay, we might not follow this particular policy. We should do, but it might not always fit. So what's your thought process around that based on the ins and outs and the day-to-day of your staff? Let's have a conversation about it. But I think we swoop in to try and fix it. We provide our advice. The advice doesn't fit. They get annoyed with us, and it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes that happens.
Yeah. The other thing that I'd say on Emma's comment there is, so that people believe in the advice I give, they don't need to. They don't need to believe in it. You give the advice, and it's like it's the whole leading the horse to water.
Yeah,
it's like you can give the advice. It's up to them whether they take it or not, because ultimately you're trying to help them find a solution to a problem that they have, but it's their problem. And so you can tell them, this is what I would suggest, or this is what I would do in your shoes. This is what the law says that kind of backs up why I'm saying this to you. These are the risks if you choose not to follow the path that I've just outlined. But ultimately, it's their decision. So when you feel like someone doesn't believe you, it's 9 times out of 10, it's just because they don't like the answer, and it means that they've either got to do anything or something that they don't really want to have to do, or have a conversation that they're not looking forward to. It comes out like they don't believe you, but it's just because they don't want to. But you don't need to worry about that. As long as, I have no doubt that when you've said, even if I know it's right, I get scared of giving it. If you know it's right, it will be right. There's nothing for you to be fearful of. It's up to them to decide whether they want to take your advice or not. But obviously always document it so your arse is covered.
Yes.
But I used to get so wound up by managers refusing to take my advice, and I've learned to let that go, because it's like, okay, the worst case scenario, if I tell you this is how I would approach this is the legal risk, and you decide to ignore me, that is essentially on you. As long as I can prove that, well, I did kind of say that this would happen, and look, here we are now, we're in tribunal. That's not your fault, and you can't control that. You're giving advice to a grown adult who is responsible for a team of people usually, and they're asking for your expertise, but it's entirely up to them if they choose to take it or not. So I would just say, give yourself a bit of grace in those situations, Emma, because it's up to them whether they choose to believe you or not. That doesn't mean you're not giving the right advice.
Absolutely.
What are some of the ways that you see confidence erode in HR roles? I think actually Emma's example there is probably one of them, isn't it? It's when you get that negativity or that pushback or that challenge to everything you're saying. After a while, it grinds you down. How else do you see it?
Well, yeah, you get that. That feedback. I heard something there. You get people not wanting to to give their advice, not wanting to speak up in meetings, and you get then that reputational damage of, well, they came to the meeting, they didn't say anything, they didn't add any value. So again, that's a bit of a vicious circle. I think you can get just so drained by it all that you start to not care so much. So that kind of compassion fatigue, like you care so much, but you're not being believed or listened to or valued, that you do start to give up and you do just start to get fatigued by it all.
Yeah. I think as well, where I've seen people get knocked is around, go back to what I was saying earlier about workloads and this expectation that actually we'll do it all and we'll take it all on. And when that's the case, it can very often feel like you're trying to do everything, but you're not achieving anything. And that lack of sense of achievement can be really impactful on your confidence as well. But I think that also has the impact of you can end up in this vicious cycle of prioritizing all the operational things, prioritizing everything that everybody's throwing at you, and forget about you in that. And, you know, I've done it. I've put my hands up. I was guilty. You know, I'd get so involved in all of that I'd neglect my own development, or I'd, you know, and then that's a vicious cycle as well, because then you go, well, I'm not up to date on that, or, you know, I could really, but actually that's because everything else has kind of knocked that to the side and you've let that happen. So I think, you know, again, it's all these different things coming into the melting pot and just swirling around in there. And I think, Sasi, you said earlier about, you know, support groups and networks and all of that. And absolutely, that's so crucial, especially if you don't have a big HR team around you.
Yeah.
But I've seen the flip side of that as well, where there's so many voices that with so many different opinions, actually, you know, you ask for some advice, you ask a question, and you get like 20 different perspectives on it, all saying something different. And then you're like, well, what does that actually mean? What do I do with that? Where do I go with it? And kind of, so I think there's definitely something within, you know, the support networks and creating those right support networks for you, and also recognizing if maybe some support networks that you've got actually aren't serving you that well, not through any ill intent, but just they're not kind of the support that you need at that point in time as well.
That's a good point, isn't it? Because you can feel a bit rubbish, especially if you're haven't done the work and you're feeling confident to just take what you want and think, oh, I'm going to apply that in that way because I know my organisation works in this way and that will work for me. If you're in that low confidence or mental health or whatever, and you've got all this noise, it can make you want to step back and shrink even more. And I think, like you say, that's serving you. Is this group serving me right now? Maybe actually I'll mute it and come back to it if I'm feeling a bit better. Or find one person that you can soundboard with would be helpful, rather than completely withdrawing.
Yeah. It's getting that balance between, I mean, I've seen people do this as well, where they'll ask everybody what they think they should do next. And you will, but I think to some extent it's like there's a desire to, and I know I did this when I was first let go and I was at absolute rock bottom from a confidence perspective. I wanted everybody's thoughts on what I should do next. But I think what I was doing was, while you keep yourself in that investigatory phase of like, what should I do? What's happening? You don't have to do the scary thing and try and move yourself out of it. So I was keeping myself in that kind of really low, almost wallowing phase. Now I look back at it like, oh, poor me, this has happened. Like, how am I ever going to find another job kind of thing? And I know I joke about it, but I was in a really low place for quite some time, but I wasn't ready to do anything to get out of it. And for me, like asking other people's opinions and getting their thoughts on what had happened was a way of keeping me there, because the next steps felt really terrifying at that point. And I think you do eventually, you just get to a point where you're like, okay, now I need to take the next steps. Like I've finished with that stage. Now I need to move forward. Then I stopped asking every man and his dog for their view after that point.
Do you think there's an element there? Because I remember actually in my lowest, I was doing the same. There's four of us at that point, or 5 in the team, and I'd ask all the other business partners, and we'd all do it differently, so it wasn't really very helpful. But I think I would say, because I get your point about wallowing, but I think for me, I was also comparing. So such and such values this person's way of being a business partner. Oh, how are they doing it? So, yeah, but that doesn't actually feel comfortable to me. Oh, I don't think I could do that. So there is that element of comparison, and then thinking, well, either don't want to do it that way, or don't think I can do it that way anyway. So it really wasn't helpful. I think you do have to find your own way eventually, and that comes when you own who you are and your confidence, and think, how am I going to do this? And that intention again behind it and your reasons for doing it.
And when you think about it, if there was only one way of solving every problem in HR, then there wouldn't be a need for whole HR teams, would there? Because managers would just be able to look it up and go, do this. But you can't. Like I always talk about the amount of grey there is in HR. There's very little that is 100% black and white. There's this whole Dulux colour palette of grey in between. And that's where we reside, in all of the grey. So it's, but it's, I get it. It's like that double checking with somebody else because you're doubting yourself. So I know that that's something that we do. So what do you both do personally? If you have a little confidence wobble now, what do you do to reset it or rebuild it? Sian, I'll ask you first. Sorry, I just sit there and stare at you. It's
That's
not
okay. That's all right. I've done lots of things over the years. The thing that I find really works for me now is 2 things. Really focusing back in on my self-care, because I think that when you have those confidence wobbles, when things are coming at you from every angle, it can be really easy to let that slip. So for me, that would mean really poor sleep. It would mean kind of overwhelm. And so focusing on the things that, for me, set me up for good sleep, that give me some space to breathe and step back from things. So that's the first thing. And the other one is really going back to my boundaries and looking at, okay, have I let them slip? Where has that happened? What am I going to do to put them firmly back in place? Because very often, I think, over the course of my career, confidence wobbles have come from different sources, but I think now it tends to come from somewhere along the line. I've allowed overwhelm to creep in, and it's been building, and I'm much better now at recognizing that much earlier. So I know those things. I think those things that for me kind of allow me to step back from that and regain focus and regain clarity and perspective.
How about you, Sasi?
I think it's really trying hard to be objective with yourself and to ask yourself, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking it? And why am I taking this inwardly? And I had a wobble today, actually. I had a little cry, and you got to feel your feelings. There's no point, boxing them off. But then I was like, what do I need to tell myself? Why am I feeling the way that I am? What do I need to do differently? And I had a real, my limiting belief came back, and where I'm like, it's because you're not good enough. It is absolutely because you're not good enough. Like, in all that you do, you're not good enough. And I'm like, shut up.
We do like to generalize, don't we, when our minds
yeah, it's like clear, right, that's obvious validation that you are not good enough. And it's like, no. So I've had to break everything down and take the wins that I've had over the last few weeks and not just, again, like the compliment, throw them away, because they're achievements in and of themselves. So yeah, I've had to give myself a little like talking to. And later today, I'm going to have to find some things that, you know, bring me joy, listen to my favourite music again, I think, and not let that thought come back, because it was strong, actually. It came back strong today. And I thought, oh, where's that come from?
Yeah. And you know, I'll be completely honest, the same happens to me. Sometimes it's just a little wobble, and sometimes it's right, you need to throw in the towel because there's no point in you doing any of this ever again because you're rubbish and no one will ever want to work with you. And sometimes that's what my brain has decided it's going to tell me today. So the self-reflection piece that you just talked about, that's a massive one for me. And I journal, I write it all down. But the other one is, it's, again, you touched on this, reminding myself of the good things. Like, you know, I do keep the messages, like this person that said to me this morning, you've had a huge impact on me. I screenshot that stuff because sometimes you need to remind yourself, like, just because something went wrong or someone disagreed with you or doubted you doesn't mean that everything else you've ever done was wrong. And so I have to remind myself of the good stuff. It's simple as that. And people have different names for it, don't they? Like people have like, you know, positivity packs and like, you know, boasting chests and things like that, whatever they want to call them. But I keep that stuff because I think sometimes you do have to remind yourself that this is just a glitch, and you don't have to generalize it to every aspect of your life. Like even my cat hates me. It's just
it's funny you say that, you know, because in the funny you said it, because I had the same thing when you launched your book, because I was like, well, don't need HR Confidence Club anymore. We've got Kirsty's book. And, you know, the mind is a funny thing, isn't it? That it's just like, what's the point? What's the point? And I don't know where it comes from. And I think it's good to talk about these things because I think we're all in the same boat. We're only human at the end of the day. And the more we talk about it, the more we can help other people.
There is so much room for multiple different books on this because the thing is, Sasi, like I love that you would, I mean, thank you for being so blooming honest about that, because I sent you an advanced copy of it and you read the damn thing and gave me notes, even though that was in your head. That's incredible. And then you invited me to talk to the Confidence Club as well.
Of course,
so that's amazing of you.
But no, it's not. We have to help people.
If you wrote a book around confidence, it wouldn't be anything like mine, because it would be your take on it with your experience and your knowledge. Sian could also write one. It would be completely different again. And people would take things from all three of them. And there need to be, you know, I'm not running a confidence club like you. That's what you're doing. Sian does confidence coaching. I do a bit of confidence coaching. You also do that. There is plenty of room because it's such a big issue for people. And there are, you know, we've all got a different way of approaching it. So but I know I get it. I mean, I sometimes, if I see people doing things that are like exactly like I'm doing, you do have that like, is everybody on the planet now going to go and work with them and nobody will ever work? And then you think, hang on a minute. No, of course they're not. That's just, you know, that's just my brain being fearful. But yeah, I mean, we're confronted with these sorts of things constantly, just constantly. I'm conscious of time. Let me ask you one last question. What is a mindset shift that has helped you stay confident even when things got tough? Sian, I'll ask you that first.
Okay. So I'm NLP trained. I'm an NLP coach, and there are two things that really stood out to me. There are kind of two presuppositions of NLP. One is that everyone is doing the best with the resources that they have available at any given time. And that includes me. So, you know, there's room and scope there to be kind to yourself, and caring and supportive of yourself, because you are doing the best that you can. And the other one is that everybody has a different model of the world. And I think for me, kind of those two things, I'm doing the best that I can with the resources that I've got. And I'm quite clear about what my model of the world is. And I can be respectful and understanding that other people will have different models and views of the world. And that doesn't mean that they can't coexist, but actually they might have a different lens or perspective on something to me. And that just gives me an opportunity to step back and say, okay, how might they be looking at this? What might their perspective be? And how can we still come together if that's what we need to do, and work with those two things, with neither being right or wrong. And I think those are two, mindset shifts, two principles that I try and keep, not all the time, but I try and keep in mind when some of those things come along that could knock my confidence.
That's incredibly wise. I love both of those. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
Sasi, how about you? Mindset shift.
Similar to Sian, I wrote down, I asked myself, and I do ask this, am I doing my best? And the thing is, sometimes our best is different on different days. Because if we're knackered, our best might be, 20% of 20%, and on a brilliant day, 100. But I always ask myself in any situation, any meeting that I have or whatever, did I give my best in that moment? And if the answer is no, then again, doing that reflection of, well, what could I have done differently? What might I want to try next time? Or whose help do I need to get? And not being afraid of asking for help now. I think as you get older, you can ask for help a bit more, I think, and be a bit more vulnerable.
Yeah. It's funny that I don't think I've ever phrased it to myself as am I doing my best, which is really interesting that you both have. I think my brain kind of does what you're talking about. Like, you do know what you're talking about. So mine's more about whether I'm right or wrong when those things, it's like, you do know what you're talking about, you've got this, is kind of where I would go. But in terms of a mindset shift, I think the one that comes up the most for me is simply what I was saying about the book just now. There's only one of me.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else is going to do everything exactly the same way I do. So I'm okay with that. As long as I can be okay with that, then I can usually snap myself out of it. Because invariably what I'm doubting myself around is because I think, like, I might not be the right person for this, or nobody's going to want to choose me for something. And it's like, no. And I think there's an element as well of being comfortable with the fact that not everyone's going to choose me.
Yeah.
And that was a big lesson for me. But it's like, I don't have to appeal to everybody. And some of that comes back to, like, the whole me, right, what we were saying at the start with how we dress and me being me, that not everybody's going to want to work with me as a coach. Not everybody's going to want to, come to the event that I'm running, because I'm not. That's okay. That's absolutely okay. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. It just means that their preference would be somebody different. So...
And you can spin that and look at that from a point of view of, there are events that you don't want to go to. And, so it works both ways, doesn't it? It's not taking it all on, it's all about me. Yeah. Actually, I would behave the same way. There are things that I don't want to do, or things I don't want to go to, or people that, there's nothing wrong with them, but they just are not the right fit for me. Imagine if we tried to be friends with everybody on the planet.
We'd be very busy.
When you start to think about it logically like that, I mean, obviously that's patently ridiculous. We can't be friends with everybody. We can't work with everybody on them. That's ludicrous. And then you think about, like, how many people can I actually work with at any given time? Probably about 20 max. So it's teeny tiny. None of us are, when you're in work and you're doing your HR job, it's like, there aren't 20 other people that are going to give a different opinion to you. It's okay. Anyway. It's a funny old thing, and it's interesting as well that it never entirely goes away.
It doesn't. I was having this conversation earlier, actually, and we were saying that we think that you achieve something, you're on to the next thing. I think you grow as well, so you always are lifting the bar, and perhaps it's how you feel on a different day as well. So
very true.
I think, but it's accepting of that, isn't it, and being aware that we're never going to get this completely sorted.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant. Well, we've just hit bang on an hour. That's amazing. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. It was a lovely conversation. I hope that we've been able to give everybody some things to think about and some tips to go away with. And we'll be back for another live session in a couple of weeks with Evolving. So keep an eye on the events page in Heartbeat or on my LinkedIn, and we'll tell you what we're going to be talking about next and who's going to be involved. But thank you to Sasi and to Sian for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It went so fast. Thank you.